Tylenol didn't take his voice box. Crack did. Crack did. RFK is... It had leaked that Offset was asking her for spousal support. And I made a video about it saying, who gonna be the boys? Karisha Please wrote a character statement for Diddy. Welcome back to Morning Coffee. And let's get into the tea. You understand what I'm saying? So there's a lot happening in all parts of the world. And so we're going to try to cover as much as we can in a little bit of time that we have. So I'm going to go with celebrity hip hop stuff before I get into politics, because there's actually a lot of stuff going on in politics. And no, I'm not preparing for the rapture. But if y'all want to send me all y'all worldly things and possessions, just let me know and I'll give you the P.O. box. Okay, so let's start with Cardi B, because that's where we ended yesterday. So Cardi B, because people have been harassing cousin Cardi B about whether or not she is prepared or should be having a second baby with a second baby daddy, all the things, which to me is still ridiculous and I feel like is absurd for people to be asking. Anyway, she finally opened up about why her divorce is not finalized, which I thought she already did, but let's listen to what Cardi B had to say about her divorce.
Y'all want to know the tea? The only way I can get out of my marriage if I pay for somebody else's taxes, even though I pay for my own, and give them one of my properties. I'm fighting for that. I'm gonna fight for that. This is not no love shit. And like I said, I'm not gonna stop living my life because on a contract, I'm practically still married because somebody want to hold me hostage if I don't give them millions of dollars to get out of it. So that's what I'm going through in life. However, I'm not going to live my life. Y'all want me to remarry and stuff, to have another baby and stuff like that? I'm doing things what makes me happy. I did it the right way the first time. Guess what? When you separate from somebody, one thing about it is, I don't like broken homes. I don't like broken homes. But guess what? Kids, like, y'all want to know the tea?
And this is the thing. Let me say this, and I'll continue to say this, is that Cardi B has been told us this. And if y'all remember earlier this year, there was, it had leaked that Offset was asking her for spousal support. And I made a video about it saying, who gonna be the boys? I literally said, who gonna be the boys? Because the reality of it is that you're asking for someone to pay you all this extra money. It then came out that he was asking for spousal support. And the thing about it is that blew me is that it would be one thing if you were asking for spousal support and you were the main caregiver for the kids, but because she's still taking care of the kids and they're with her and he is known not to take care of his children, what would she be paying you spousal support for? And you're living in a home that she paid for with your girlfriend. You moved your girlfriend into a home that she bought, and he hasn't helped her to pay any of the bills. I completely understand what she's saying. I wouldn't rush to do anything at all because I would not want to give somebody millions of dollars in taxes, especially somebody who has their own career. Who's going to be the boys? Okay, I don't know. And to be honest, y'all get sick about somebody's relationship. Y'all don't know about Stefan Diggs and her relationship. Y'all don't know how deep and the truth of the matter is that they never really let us in outside of posting each other. We don't know if they were madly in love. We don't know if you don't know the ins and outs of somebody's life. You get what I'm saying? And the kids are not going to suffer. People say this. The reality of it is that kids are not dumb. They understand. There's nothing about this situation that's giving kids suffering. You know what kids are suffering? Offset's kids. Offset's kids are suffering because Offset doesn't come see his kids. That don't have nothing to do with Cardi B. Offset's kids are suffering because he don't want to be a father to his kids. There's no you. That's on Offset. Cardi B can't force Offset to be a father to his children. It's delusion at this point that y'all think that y'all are supposed to hold her to a standard because of Offset. What that got to do with? What does that have to do with her? Y'all need to be writing strongly worded letters and making content about Offset coming to see his kids, because a separate home doesn't mean kids suffering. Two parents in two different homes, in two different spaces, doesn't automatically equate to people suffering. Y'all are delusional because y'all have your own traumas and your own experiences. There are people who co-parent and do it very well. There are people who are raising kids in two different homes and their kids are great. In fact, it's a better situation, and this is the problem. This is the problem for a lot of y'all. It's a better situation for parents who are toxic and unsafe to separate and to teach kids to know their worth rather than sitting down and being with somebody who treats you like hell. Okay. Y'all don't want to talk about that though. Y'all want these two-family homes that are traumatizing. Y'all want kids to really be traumatized. Oh, she's not with Offset anymore. Her kids are suffering. No, her kids are better off because they're not watching their mother be dragged through hell. Y'all are insufferable. Okay, and I just wanted to put that out there because it was getting to a point where it's just like at a point we got to call a spade, and it is absolutely ridiculous that people are still advocating and saying that her kids are suffering because of her father. People don't have to stay married for their kids to grow up. People don't have to be married for their kids to have healthy lives. Y'all are too dependent, and also a mother is not the only one that creates a healthy lifestyle for their kids. Y'all need to stop being sick. These people, as long as people want to raise their children and be in their children's lives, it's not your business. And how she does it is also not your business. It's just not. And so the choices people make, and also telling somebody that their child is a mistake, y'all are delusional. Y'all don't have kids and y'all are delusional. And y'all kids are probably miserable because anybody that's willing to tell their child to tell somebody that their child is a mistake and that they shouldn't be having their child, y'all are not real parents. Because that to me, the statement in and of itself is egregious and would have made me want to scrap. Okay, because she's having the baby. The baby's coming. Anyway, in other news, Diddy. Let's talk about Diddy. Diddy's team is asking, let's talk about Diddy and Karisha. Diddy's team is asking that he only get 14 months in jail. They're saying that he suffered enough and that he has gone through so much in jail, and that the living conditions are not livable, and that for the Mann Act, which is, again, remember, he only got found guilty on the Mann Act, which is basically bringing escorts across state lines for the purpose of prostitution. They're asking that he only do 14 months in jail. Now, the prosecution team is pushing for a 5-year sentence or more. They're basically saying that it's unfair that he should be let out and that he hasn't really learned the consequences of his actions. So they'll hopefully by next week they'll come to a decision about how long he'll stay in jail. So stay tuned for that, and I'll keep y'all posted. Now the other thing is Karisha Please wrote a character statement for Diddy. She submitted Karisha, Diddy's mom, and other folks wrote a character statement in support of Diddy. Now let me say this. I'm not going to read the whole letter because it's really long. But what I will say is, in the beginning, she says that she does not know about anything that happened before her. She's not aware of anything that took place before her and of all the actions that people are saying took place, and that she doesn't condone any of those things. Right? To me, though, you can't say that and then write a statement saying that he's an amazing person, he's an incredible dad, he's resourceful, he's done so much for Black people, he's opened up doors, and at the end she said he's a good man. Those two things don't go hand in hand. Knowing the violence that he caused and the harm that he's caused towards many of people, and him being a good man, those two things are not, they can't go together real bad. They can't go together real bad, right? So the fact that she wrote a character letter, and the thing is that she's obviously so desperately trying to disassociate herself from what has come up in a trial about him. However, you can't remove the person. This is like when people be like, oh, R. Kelly, but he this, he that. The person is still the person. So you could talk about all the great things he's done for you, but does that now negate all of the horrible things he's done to other people? We listened to and watched horrific things play out during this trial. And you think we just supposed to be cool with that? You're losing me. You're losing me. And the thing is, I was rooting for Karisha. I wanted her to just stay in the cut. I was glad she wasn't on none of the freak offs. But now what it looks like to me is that you're trying to secure your spot again and make yourself feel good, or like position yourself for when he comes out, and that he continues to take care of you. That's what it's giving. You know what I'm saying? And you know what? Actually, that's a good point. And I'm actually not opposed to that. Is she scared for her life? Is he threatening her? Is her livelihood at stake? He actually also, and it's so hard with these cases, right? Because it's unfortunate, but he controls a lot of the money that goes around in entertainment. And so does that mean that she won't get what she needs and can't provide for her family? That's just a perspective. I'm not saying that that's right or wrong, but what I am saying is that her letter is a contradiction. You can't say that you don't support all of the horrible things that he does, but he's a good man. You shouldn't have ended the letter like that. Now, could this be her fighting for her life and her livelihood? Maybe. We don't know. And the truth about it is that, and thank you for making giving us that perspective, because the truth of the matter is that so many of the women who were involved in this were fighting for their lives, and we didn't know. A lot of the women who were involved with Diddy were fighting for their lives, and we didn't see the behind the scenes. So I appreciate the different perspective, because I didn't think about it like that. In my mind, I was like, oh yeah, she just, picked me, want the money. But Karisha's career ain't popping. She got kids to raise, and listen, you don't know how he's threatening her or what he's coming for her with. And maybe there's something he got on her. You know what I'm saying? So I appreciate the perspective. I don't agree with the letter. I feel like she contradicted herself, but the perspective is always good to have more than one perspective. All right, let's get into politics. Let's get into politics. Oh, I hate having to say those words out loud. Let's listen. Let's listen to what y'all president had to say yesterday.
This country is going through what parts of the world are going through. And I will say there are parts of the world that don't take Tylenol. I mean, there's a rumor, and I don't know if it's so or not, that Cuba, they don't have Tylenol because they don't have the money for Tylenol, and they have virtually no autism, okay? Tell me about that one. And there are other parts of the world where they don't have Tylenol, where they don't have autism. That tells you a lot. This country is going through.
Some of our friends like to say we should believe all women. Some of these same people have been silencing and demonizing these mothers for 3 decades because research on the potential link between autism and vaccines has been actively suppressed in the past. It will take time for an honest look at this topic by scientists. But I want to reassure the people in the autism community that we will be uncompromising and relentless in our search for answers. Some of our...
Every time I hear RFK speak, and I'm reminded that he's the health secretary. Mind you, he ain't nothing but a former crackhead. RFK ain't nothing, and I know that them white folks try to find a nice way to put it. RFK ain't nothing but a former crackhead. And they're telling us that Tylenol is the cause of autism. I need us to get up. Get up, stand up. And I said this in my video yesterday, before I even heard what they had to say, truly, because it was them, I wasn't even interested in hearing about them. I wasn't even interested in hearing about it. Barney could have said it and I would have been more investigatory. I would have looked deeper into it if Barney said it. But because it was them, and let me tell you something. Tylenol didn't take his voice box. Crack did. Crack did. RFK is... Nobody want to talk about the intravenous. Nobody want to talk about the worm that he had going on inside his body. This is the man that we want to speak to us about health. I promise you, and I am deeply convinced that the reason that they're doing this is because they got either there's some sort of beef with Tylenol, so they needed to put something out there to make people not buy Tylenol because they know that people are going to listen to it. My other thing is that there might be another competitive pain reliever in the market that they got some money ties to, and they know that the best way to get that new thing out there is to downplay or try to make Tylenol seem bad. There is something there because this is what Trump does. Whenever people do something that they don't like, and the other thing is they want women to be miserable during pregnancy. They want people to be miserable during pregnancy, and they don't want them to have any sort of, and they also want, this is, I know that this is linked to higher numbers of people of reproduction. And I said this to y'all before, and I'll say it again when Trump first got in office, that they want more people who are not college ed. They want people having more kids. They want to dismantle the education system because they want more people who are uneducated so that they can put them in factories and increase the revenue for billionaires in this country and have more things be made in this country by people who are not educated. It's all a part of a plan. It's the plan to keep the rich richer. They want more labor. When they say that they're bringing more jobs to America, they are talking about factory jobs. They are talking about Americans who are rich being able to build things in this country instead of having to outsource so that the rich stay richer and we outsource things towards them so they can charge more money to other countries. It is the bottom line, I promise you. And it all links back. All of this Tylenol during pregnancy, this continue to have more kids, it is all a plan to try to force more factory labor onto American people because American people were getting too smart too fast. And the people who control a lot of what's happening, the people who want to continue to push that they want to get richer, they were losing the people to work in their factories. They did not have the staff to work in their factories. That is why they agreed to having China send people over here to work in a Hyundai factory. Because they wanted it to be, they want the people to build it here. They want to show people how to build it here so that they can create more of those jobs. And then they went into the factory because they don't have common sense, or Korea, I'm sorry. From Korea, they went into the factory, they ran into the factory and tried to deport the same people that were sent here. Okay. It's all interconnected. It's all the same thing. It was Korea, my apologies for saying China. It was Korea. It's all interconnected. It's all the same thing. It's a bunch of hoopla. Okay. Now, let's get into Auntie Kamala Harris. So Auntie Kamala Harris released her book, 107 Days. It's coming out today, I believe. And they released some of the excerpts from the book. I just want to start off by saying that everything that she said needed to be said. 1. 2 is that I'm glad that she finally was able to confirm that what was happening with Biden while he was still trying to run for election was a white man being a white man. This was about white male ego and white fragility. It was about white men being white men and white male fragility and people not being able to see the writing on the wall. Okay? And she said in one of her excerpts, she said, he spoke for nearly an hour, detailing the accomplishments of our administration. It was a legacy speech for him and not an argument for me, and he was entitled to it. But if we waited for some personal stories about working with me and what qualities he had seen that led him to endorse me, they weren't there. Joe Biden was busy white manning. He refused to step out of the race because of ego. He got up there and did that debate with Trump, knowing that he was ill and that he wasn't well because of his ego. And the reality of it is that Kamala Harris was put in a compromising situation. I'm going to continue to say this, especially for the people who continue to berate her and smear her name and make her seem like a bad person. Everyone wanted her to come out and say, I don't support what Joe Biden did. I don't agree with what he was doing. I was anti-Joe Biden, but that wouldn't have gone well for her. She was a black woman fighting for a presidential seat. Getting up there and smearing the name of a white man would have done nothing that it needed to do but satisfy a certain group of people. Okay? When she talked about Palestine and Israel, she was very clear about the fact that she was calling for a ceasefire. She wanted the war to end. But people were so caught up in the fact that she was under the Biden administration and they allowed a G-side to happen that they couldn't see past the smoke and mirrors. She clearly didn't agree with it, but what did y'all expect her to do? She wasn't running for presidency of one group of people. She had to win the popular vote, right? The majority of folks. So when you're a politician, the way that it works is that you have to cater to different demographics and different groups of people. And y'all wanted her to come straight out the gate telling people, oh yeah, F what Biden did. Do you know what that would have done for her as a black woman? Mind you, she only had 107 days to run because the white man wouldn't get out the way. Now let's also talk about, and I know that people are going to be upset, but let's also talk about Barack Obama. In her book, she says that Barack Obama said, saddle up. Joe did what I hoped he would do, but you have to earn it. Michelle and I are supportive, but not going to put a finger on the scale right now. Let Joe have his moment. Think through timing. Let Joe have his moment is a hell of a thing to say to a black woman that you know is fighting the odds of being black and a woman in America and running for presidency. Joe's moment should have been up when he didn't rerun for the seat. Joe should have had his moment when he realized that he wasn't capable of running for the seat and came out and should have come out and told America, hey, I'm really not well. I'm not okay. But this black woman who has been by my side and leading is more than capable of being at the helm of our country and being able to make sure that the legacy continues. That was him having, that should have been him having his moment. Him having his moment shouldn't have been, and the only reason that he stepped down is because he embarrassed himself during that debate with Donald Trump. It shouldn't have taken all that for him to step down. So his moment had long been gone. And for somebody like Barack Obama, who black people hold to such a high esteem, to write something like that and to say something like that to somebody who you know is going to have a difficult time running in a presidential election, knowing that you had a hard time as a black man, as a biracial black man. She is a black woman in America. And when the Obamas took so long to endorse her, it was blowing my mind. While it was happening, I was so confused. I'm like, yo, where's Barack? Where Michelle? Where they at? There's a level of disappointment, and it also speaks to this boys club mentality, right? So bigger than that, if there's this boys club mentality where they have this affinity to men, even if they know that it's not right, even if it's white men, this boys club mentality is louder even than the idea of, or the spirit of, how black identity is interconnected and how we need to be able to support each other, especially in the public eye. And the last thing I'm going to talk about with this from the excerpt that I've seen so far is her talking about Governor Shapiro and who she thought was a good candidate for vice president or her running mate. Now, she says in the book that she had to tell Shapiro that he couldn't be co-president. To me, that's another example of a white man. Because he wanted to be in a room for a lot of decisions, but it's almost like you don't understand that there's a role to play as a vice president and a president. And because she's a black woman, you think that you need to run the White House with her, but there's a president and there's a vice president. Both have roles, and there's things that you would be solely responsible for and that you could have, but instead he wanted to be in the room in every space with her as the vice president. I'm glad that she came out guns a-blazing. I hope Auntie Sister Kamala, Vice President Harris, continues to come out guns a-blazing and puts it out there. And I also think that this is what the Democratic Party needs. This is what the Democratic Party needs, this type of heat. It needs this type of heat. We need to shake it up by being honest. We need this type of fire under them. So I hope that she continues and that people are going to try to come against her and use it against her. But the Democratic Party needs to be shaken up because they ain't doing shit. And speaking of Democratic Party, one of the only people that I rock with, Jasmine Crockett. So Jasmine Crockett said this.
One of the things I do want to point out that's not been laid out that honestly hurts my heart is when I saw the no votes, there were only 2 Caucasians. For the most part, the only people that voted no were people of color because the rhetoric that Charlie Kirk continuously put out there was rhetoric that specifically targeted people of color. And so it is unfortunate that even our colleagues could not see how harmful his rhetoric was, specifically to us. And one of the things I do want to point out that's
Now,
not been...
Laura Loomer, in response to that, Laura Loomer comes out and says, it hurts my heart that we have ghetto black bees who hate America serving in Congress. Ghetto black bees. And then she says, is it a black job when I expose your boss for being a racist hood rat who enjoys promoting political violence? Okay. Why these bees be trifling? Girl, if you finna play with me, you best be ready for the truth. I be spitting on your weave. Baby girl, don't like the taste of your own medicine. Go. I don't know if y'all can see it, but go to Baller Alert or Twitter. Okay. The Laura Loomer. It's a shame that these ghetto black bees are allowed to serve in Congress. And then continued to try to use AAVE as a way to mock Jasmine Crockett. And that's the freedom of speech that is allowed. Okay.